Me now is Taha Arvis, a journalist at Daily Sabah, and Hamed Ilhamian, who is the Director of International Sales at Anka Invest. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Taha, let me start with you.
Okay.
So why is Turkey loosening the rules on foreign investment? So what's the goal here?
I think there are two goals. I mean, the primary goal, I think, would be to attract investment, obviously. Many other countries have similar programs going on. So Turkey is doing two things. I think not only does it want to attract investment, but it also wants to attract investors, because not only is there a lack of investment currently in Turkey, but there's also a lack of human resources in many fields. So I think they want to make it easier for people to come to Turkey and live here, as Turkish citizens, and integrate with the society and contribute to the economy.
Mm-hmm. And Hamed, what countries are foreigners coming from to buy property here in Turkey?
Mostly in Turkey, the foreigners who are coming to invest in Turkey, they're from the Gulf countries, especially from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from Dubai. We see many people from the south of the Gulf, like Iran, from Iraq. These are the mostly people who are already investing in Turkey, especially in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm. What are the reasons that foreigners would want to invest in property in Turkey right now?
The first thing at the moment is the capital appreciation. With the exchange rate of dollar, okay, it gives the people a better purchasing power, okay. So the amount of the people who are already putting money in Turkey now is approximately around $150,000 to $200,000, and this was before very difficult for them to bring this amount of money. But now with the exchange rate, it's very easier for them to buy bigger properties, okay, in better locations, okay, before they have to go to some certain areas in the west of Istanbul where the property is cheap. But now they can come more towards the downtown. They can buy bigger properties, more central locations. They can even purchase commercial properties, which it brings higher rental income.
Mm-hmm. Taha, are there any mechanisms in place to control people who might come here for nefarious purposes, criminals or perhaps money laundering? Because now that they've loosened the requirements, it certainly opens the opportunity up for a lot more people.
Sure. I mean, that's always a concern with these type of programs, but there are a lot of countries in the world that have similar problems. And London is a center for not only foreign investment, but also for money laundering, frankly. I mean, we've heard all the scandals that HSBC has been involved in other banks, frankly, many other banks. So these are problems that Turkey will face as more investors come to the country. But I think the government they have very strict abilities to track such things. I mean, there was a recent case where people were laundering hundreds of millions of dollars in very small increments. So I think the technology is so advanced now that it's not as difficult to track those things.
Mm-hmm. How much is Turkey expecting to see interest from foreign buyers increase with this new program?
I think this program has come at a time maybe a little later than it should have come, only because there's currently an emerging market slowdown, a slump. So there is not as much money, frankly, as there was before in the world. I mean, 10 years ago, you had very few options as far as where you could park your money. You would get less than 0.5% interest on your U.S. Treasury bonds. And so people were looking for investments in emerging markets for return on equity, whatever that may be. It was practically zero a decade ago. So now people are investing. So Turkey now has competition. But I think the one thing that many people who live in Istanbul will tell you is that Turkey is, unlike many other places, a livable country, very much a livable country. I mean, whatever happens to the economy, it's a beautiful country. I mean, the name of this program, Straight Talk, refers to these beautiful straits that Istanbul has. Unlike other countries, I mean, if you live in the Gulf, for example, I mean, Abu Dhabi is great, Dubai is great, Qatar is great, but when the summer comes, the locals are gone, I mean, it's just unlivable practically in the summer. And that doesn't really exist in Istanbul for any period of time. The winters aren't that bad. The summers aren't that, in general, for all of Turkey. So in that respect, I think Turkey is expecting to get a lot of traction here, a lot of interest, but not as much as it could have probably in the years past.
Mm-hmm. Hamid, what about driving up the market price for locals? We've seen in other cities around the world where foreign investment comes in and they pay over market value for properties, and then locals can't afford to buy homes. And especially with the drop in the lira recently here in Turkey, is there concern about that at all?
It is. You know, to be honest, with the lira going down, okay, it makes it good for the foreign investors to come and purchase properties. But in the same time, you know, it's the prices are increasing. The prices are increasing, but there is a different way of looking at this, okay? Because when the people are coming, the market value goes higher. The real estate are getting more expensive, but at the same time, the quality of the investments, you know, is getting better, okay? Many foreigners, they come here with the small amount of money, $150,000, okay, but this, they can buy a good property, but a Turkish person will never pay this amount of money because they are getting loans from the bank, okay? These loans, they can pay it with less than 0.98%, which was announced by the government, so it's less than 1%, and they can pay it up in 10 years. But a foreigner, when it comes here, he's bringing cash. So this will speed up the markets. Okay, so I see it as a good thing.
What sort of reassurances will investors have that their investments here in Turkey will be protected? I mean, as we know, rules change all the time, but foreigners who come in who may not be familiar with a lot of the rules of Turkey, I mean, are there certain reassurances in place for them?
The first thing was, you know, when Turkey announced to give the title deeds full ownership to the foreigners in 2012, okay, the first insurance they give to the foreigners is that you're gonna own this property 100%, and it is inheritable. So that's the most, that's the best insurance you can get from one country.
Taha, are there any politics in place here, politics of the region? Is that reflected at all in foreign investment in Turkey?
I mean, I think politics plays an important role in real estate, especially in Turkey in these days, because many of the countries that that we're talking about that were investing in Turkey have turmoil of their own. They have a lot of questions unanswered about their regional politics. So Turkey has been relatively very stable in the last 15, 20 years. And unlike the other, I mean, we talk about some of the countries we're talking about, Saudi Arabia, you know, they have a very elderly monarch who may pass away at any point, and then who will inherit the throne. That exists for all the Gulf countries, frankly. The neighbors to the south, Syria, Iran, Iraq, these are not exactly the most stable countries. So many of these people who live in these areas are investing in Turkey because Turkey has stability. You know, I mean, despite economic crises that may occur that globally nowadays, politically it's a stable country. It's a very old, society. Let's put it that way. I mean, we live right now. We're 3 miles away from the third oldest golf course in the entire world because, you know, a Scottish guy came here 100 years ago, and, you know, so it's not a new country. Many of these Gulf countries have just recently become independent from their colonial powers. So I think these investors are coming here because they're in it for long term. Turkey doesn't have a lot of political instability anymore.
All right, Hamid Elhamian and Taha Arvis, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.